Hi, everybody. My name is Psychic Medium Kelly Miller, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my story because a lot of people want to know about me. So I'm going to talk about how these abilities came about for me. So my dad and my uncle had moved to a small town, Schuyler, Nebraska, when I was about a year old. That fifth year, I turned about 5 years old, and my dad and uncle had sat down, had a chat, and they decided that year, on January 1st, they were going to start a construction business together. Unfortunately, my uncle was killed in a car accident on Christmas Eve, so they weren't able to do that. Now, fast forward a couple years, about 2 years, my dad had said something to me about the car accident. And I looked at him and I said, but that's not how it happened. He said, oh, really? How did the car accident happen? So I told him in detail exactly how the car accident happened, and he looked at me and went sheet white. And he goes, how did you know that? And I said, well, because Uncle Jim told me. He said, I believe you, but let's just keep this between us. Let's not tell your mom. Let's not tell your brother. Don't tell your friends. If anything happens like this, you just come talk to me. So growing up, I didn't think anything different. If I had anything going on, I would go tell my dad. Well, my dad was tone deaf. He had hearing aids. So half the things that I told him, he was like, that's nice. And he just never listened to what I had to say because he couldn't hear me. So when I turned 21, my dad was 45 years old. He got diagnosed with melanoma, and he died later that year due to skin cancer. So when my dad died, you really just don't talk about things like this, especially religion and politics. So this is one of those things that I just never spoke about again. Eventually, I got married, got a divorce, moved back to a small town, and where after that point, I really moved back because I had to file for bankruptcy. I didn't have any money. And I remember sitting there crying in this one-bedroom apartment with my two kids thinking, I will never again put myself in this situation. And so I just said, God, do whatever it takes for me and to help me get out of this situation. So a week later, I go to a party. And I'm not going to lie, I had a little bit too much to drink at this party. So I went to the party, and there was a gentleman standing there, and he kept talking about his dad most of the night. Now, his dad had died about 8 years ago, and I knew this because, well, I could see him. So as the night progressed, again, I had more to drink. He had a little bit more. Everybody at the party did too. So finally, towards the end of the night, after him still talking about his dad, I turned around, looked at him. I said, I don't know why you're so upset. Your dad is right behind you. He's got rainbow suspenders, a black and white label beard, and he's smoking a cigarette. And I turned around, looked at my friends, and they all looked at me, and they went sheet white. And that's when I realized, oh my goodness, that's why my dad told me to shut the hell up about this. So after that point, people then started calling me for readings. And I'm like, hey, I don't do readings. I manage the garden center in town. So, with a little bit of help from my friends, they encouraged me to do this. And then I started talking to them about, well, don't you see life this way? Don't you see things this way or this way? And they said, well, you can see it written all over their face. And I said, well, yes, I can. And I learned that that's a figure of speech, or you can see it coming from a mile away. Again, that's a figure of speech. I didn't know that. So what really changed it, because honestly, it took that as quite a joke. So I was taking care of the garden center, taking care of my kids later in the evening, and then I put them to bed and then do one reading based on referrals. So what really changed it one night is, and I'll never forget, because at the time my son was 7 years old, and he was a typical boy. I'm thirsty, I'm tired, but I still want to go to the bathroom, like, oh, get to bed. So I finally got him to bed. A lady came in, I sat her down, I started out doing the psychic reading, and then I flipped over to the mediumship, and I noticed that her 7-year-old son came out from back behind her, and he had drowned. And I'm thinking, here this lady is coming to me wanting to know if her son is just okay on the other side, and I had the luxury of putting my pain in the ass kid to bed. That's when it hit me. If you have these abilities, you help people, because that's the right damn thing to do with it. So the next day I was driving to the garden center, and I asked out loud, I said, God, angel, spirit guides, and anybody else who knows me, if I'm supposed to be a psychic medium in the Bible Belt of Nebraska and Iowa, you had better prove it. So later that day, I go to Burger King, and I walked in, and a kid behind the counter turns around, looks at me, and he says, do you want a medium pop? And I said, what? And he goes, do you want a medium pop? I said, yeah, I'll have a medium pop with a cheeseburger and fries. I'm like, okay, that was weird. So I sat in my car and I was eating my cheeseburger and fries, and I turned on the radio and they're talking about the Long Island medium, and I'm like, holy crap. So I get done with that. I go home to let out my dog. And a lady calls me up on the phone and she said, Kelly, do you remember telling me to go to the doctor? And I said, yes, because to me it looked like she had endometriosis. And she goes, Kelly, I have stage 2 uterine cancer. Thank you so much for telling me to go. You saved my life. Well, right then and there, I knew that was the 3 signs that I needed, that this is absolutely the right thing for me. So I picked up the phone, I called my mom, and I said, hey, Ma, I'm just letting you know, I'm going to put in my 2 weeks notice at the garden center, and I am going to be a full-time psychic medium. She just paused and said, you need to go back to church. So after that point, however, the phone calls just started coming in, and I have now been doing this full-time for only 2 years. I do this during the day. I also do parties in the evening, and I'm super, super blessed to be able to do a job that I absolutely love. And I encourage people that have these abilities as well to help other people. That's why you have this ability in the first place, is to help other people with this. Now, you may not be a full-time psychic medium like me, but even if you help somebody out at the grocery store, if you help somebody at the checkout line, anything, we're here to help. That's what we do. So I encourage everybody who's got these abilities to use them to the best advantage that you got. Thank you so much for taking a little bit of time out to learn a little bit about me, and keep watching as I'll be doing follow-up videos, such as how-to videos like how to meditate, how psychic abilities work, all different sorts of things. So make sure to subscribe to my YouTube page, and we'll be talking to you soon. Thanks.